So let's bring up the first ad run for this, right?
Sure.
Let's see what this is all about. Go for it. Why work here is the first one listed.
Why do I want to work at Trader Joe's? Well, for starters, I love the unlimited free samples. Last time I was here, I scarfed down like 40 or 50 of those little Swedish meatballs. So that is definitely number one. Is it a requirement to ask customers personal stuff like, how's your day going so far? If they're buying a bunch of booze, you say, so you got a big party tonight? Because it could get a little awkward if they say, yeah, I'm having a big P. Diddy freak-off. You want to come? What am I going to say? Just use my judgment. That makes sense. Oh, question. Do you have to get your earlobes pierced with those giant rings in order to work here? Because last time I was in, this guy had these rings the size of pickle jar caps in his ears, and I threw up all over that weird little checkout counter, and it might have been my hangover and the meatballs, but not required, but permitted. Okay, last question. Which gender group is the alpha dog here, so to speak? Because I'm guessing it's the lesbians, and if they're not, that's who I vote for, because, let's face it, they get you.
We'll let people hang on that one for a bit.
I just love the fact, like I said earlier, like it comes off so natural. It kind of felt like you just put him in a booth and said riff.
Yeah, I wish it were so. Yeah, it's actually, for anybody out there that's wanting to write comedy, it's a skill, right, that you need to hone. Luckily, Tim, who's our main writer, and I just riff with him and help. Or a lot of times I'll come up with the scenario, and then he kind of embodies it, and then we just go back and forth. But he's the primary writer, and he trained at Second City in Chicago, which is kind of where
really
the SNL guys all came from. Yeah, so he's really got there. Every word, all the beats, all the pauses, that's all actually planned out. And I know that doesn't sound fun when you're talking about comedy, but that's how it comes off natural, because you're kind of imagining yourself as Flip. You're imagining this guy who he's interviewing with, and the guy's responding with like, oh God, what have we done? That sort of thing. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I mean, I know of Second City. I live actually like 45 minutes from Second City, so I'm not too far away from them. But man, some of the comedy people that come out of there, they're either some of the worst or some of the best. Like there's a huge spectrum from Second City.
Yeah.
And they kind of lean into it sometimes too. They're like, okay, if you go out there and you bomb, you never were here. Like, period. You were never here.
Yeah, right. We don't claim you.
But I met one of the managers back in 2012, and that dude was hilarious. Like, he's like, I've seen it all. You can't fool me. Anything. Like, I know when someone's good or bad right away. And he just looked at me and went, no.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I'm out. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough business.
It is a tough business. It's
like games, right? It's really hits based in the sense of, do you taste success in the financial way? Most of the time, no. But every now and then, a lot,
Well, okay. Do you think making a game comes from a central idea point and just get expanded upon? Or do you think the game that you create is more of a, hey, let me try this?
Well, I mean, I think it's all over the place, right? Some people want to emulate the thing that they love, like kind of take an idea and just refine it. And that's probably the most successful formula,
right?
And actually, that's why the mainstream games do that, because you want to reduce your problem set to as few miracles as possible. And one of those miracles is you're going to create a new game type that people just happen to love across the land.
Well,
good luck with that, because that's tough. Unless your name's Shigeru Miyamoto, you're probably not going to be good at that. I mean, Zed, I'm going to hate to break it to you right now. It's possible, but not likely. And so,
I mean,
copying and iterating is the most like chance for success. But that's what the indie game, landscape is so interesting with, is that you don't have nearly as much of that, and you get some really interesting takes.
Right. And kind of expanding on what you said, like not reinventing the wheel per se, but like changing something up. Look at the battle royale genres. because it started with like the main one was PUBG,
Yep.
and then it was Warzone, and then Apex Legends came in, and they added the respawn in, and now every single battle royale has the respawn in trope. It's like that was just one little change that completely dominated the whole market.
Yeah,
like
there's for any game devs out there or people interested in the games industry, there's Sid Meier's has a book. It's called Memoir, like with an apostrophe, like an exclamation mark, and it's him, talking about his life as a designer. And one of the things that stuck with me that he said was, they said, how is it possible that he made so many hit games? In terms of hit ratio, Sid Meier's probably, top 3. I mean, name me someone besides him and Miyamoto.
I can't.
It's tough, right? At that ratio. And he said, well, here's the deal. Copy another game a third, like fully just straight copy. Don't change it. Take it, and then take another third of your game and copy another third of that game, but just make those parts better. So polish a third. So you have a third totally copied, a third totally polished, and then you have a third where you experiment but don't get too crazy. And that's how you make something that seems familiar, that seems a little fresh, but it also seems better. It's familiar, it's better, and it's fresh. And that's the Sid Meier's take. And I'm like, damn, that's really good. Maybe someday I'll follow that.
I mean, as you're explaining it, the first game that came to mind was Halo 3 ODST, because that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And they copied the whole Halo franchise and said, okay, now you're an ODST instead of a Spartan. And it's probably one of their best selling games ever because of just, it was so unique.
Yeah.
But like, wow, I didn't think it would be that easy.
That's
Don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but that's really easy to get like an idea down.
It's definitely a good framework to put yourself in, right? Instead of saying, I could do anything on the planet. That's a tough mind space to be in. Start narrowing it down to like, well, what do I think I could actually pull off? Art style, genre, technical, mechanics, whatever. And then pick something you really like and then go, okay, I'll rip a third of it. I'll make a third of it better because I played it and I love it. I know what I would do to make it better. And then get creative with another third. Like, do we have a respawn mechanic or whatever? And then you've, at least in terms of the game itself being fun, you have a high chance of that being true. And now you're down to all the other stuff. Like, is it the right IP? Do you have a way to market it? Is the planet, ready to have another game launched this second? That kind of thing.
Right. And that kind of leads into one of the questions as we got here is how do indie developers manage to balance game development with their day job? This question was submitted by you, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's a question I've asked myself a lot over the years because I started off, actually doing nights. Right. I would do nights on indie dev, and then daytime I was doing e-commerce development. Ooh. And so not the same in most ways. But, the real thing is you have to put in the time. You have to put in a lot of time. You can't just, unless you're just hobbying, like you're just having fun with it. But if you're actually wanting to eventually be a job, you need to put in a lot of time. And here's the kicker. You shouldn't do it at the expense of the people around you who love you and need some of your time. And so, like, if you're going to miss dinners and bedtime with the kids, I can tell you from experience, you don't want to do that because regret is a taste you don't want to have lingering in your mouth. So
what I'm hearing is go to Fiverr
get up
and
early.
Get your programmers.
Go to Fiverr. Yeah. That'll never backfire, by the way.
Never whatsoever.
Yeah. So I just tell everybody, look, you need to become a morning person. I know everybody thinks it's cool to be like some late night warrior, but when you're, like 3 hours in on 4chan and you haven't typed into Visual Studio in a while, you should switch your life over to like get up at 4 a.m. and start working and not go to sleep at 4 a.m. It's just better that way.
Yeah, I don't envy you for the nights. I worked nights for almost 7 years. Like, it sucked. Like, you have a lot more power than I do because I wanted to get away from that as fast as I could, but I was stuck there forever. But I mean, anymore, it's like life gets in the way sometimes. How do you balance that though? You know?
Yeah. The truth is that, real life is more important.
Yeah.
So you need to sometimes take a break. And sometimes, like for me, I became a workaholic early on, and I was unable to sit down and relax. I was like the idea of sitting and watching a TV show or something was like I'd have like a physical reaction to it. I actually became addicted to what I consider to be productive work time. And like I said, it's the cost and the toll on everybody important around you is too great. So you can't go all in on all your time, right? Go all in on the time you can. Be 100% during that block, but don't make everyone else sacrifice for your dream, because you will regret that, and you can be successful without going there. It'll force you to make your productive hours productive.
So you're saying is don't sacrifice your support team.
You
Support
can't,
your support
man.
team.
You're gonna give up on your friends and your wife and your kids and your parents.
Who needs those?
Right? I look back on my early years as an indie dev, and I have 5 kids. So now the oldest one's 18 and the youngest one's 9. And I missed out on a lot of years of the little, the oldest ones, their little years. And I luckily came out of it before they were teenagers, and I was able to sort of, I don't want to say make up for it, but be there the way I should be there. And thank God, because I regret missing the time I missed. I see pictures of them and I just like, damn, I wish I had more memories than just this picture of you at that age.
That's definitely understandable. I mean, for a lot of indie developers, I believe that's something they should definitely hear. So I really appreciate you saying that, because I've been toying with something similar in my scenario right now of like, okay, am I doing too much? Should I be paying attention to other things? Like, so that actually kind of applies to me in some aspect, and I can appreciate that sentiment for somebody much more experienced than I.
Yeah, well, sometimes that experience comes at a great cost. So you don't have to listen to old graybeards, but every now and then you might want to.
I mean, I will, because it's fashionable, and I wish I had the same setup that you did. I'm almost Amish right now. Like I need to get that.
I was going to ask you to make me some furniture.